We're going into the heart of the fire. On one side, the Vorlons, on the other, the Shadows. And us in the middle. Whether any of us will ever come back, I don't know.
If they want Armageddon, then by God, let's give it to them.
You cannot break those chains. They are made of solid beryllium.
How much more before I can look in the mirror and not see myself? Because I keep looking, and I'm always there. What was it all for, I wonder? What was any of it for?
To be a god, you understand? A god.
In the final hours before the ultimate conflict.
No matter how it ends up, we're gonna go down fighting.
Who will make the ultimate sacrifice for victory?
There's no turning back now.
On an all-new Babylon 5.
You have transmissions holding.
Patch incoming signal. Full audio and video decode.
Purple files accessed.
What you are about to see has never been shown to anyone outside the Great Council.
Hello, everyone out there in podcast land. Welcome to Grade 17, a Babylon 5 podcast, part of the Front Row Network and NPR Illinois Community Voices. We are a group of newbies watching Babylon 5 for the very first time, and a group of first ones who have watched Babylon 5 far too many times. We're recording this sucker while some of us are still digesting turkey, and we're hopeful that you had a good Thanksgiving, and for all of you non-Americans, whatever, enjoy yourselves. But we are here today to talk about The Long Night from Season 4. I'm Scott, and with me is...
Blake,
Emily,
Kevin,
Mike,
and Nicole.
And before we get started, a reminder, as always, to check out our social medias, which are linked down below. We have Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Our newbies are mainly on Facebook. Our oldies are scattered amongst them all. And we also do have our Discord page, which includes both a general discussion as well as a spoiler thread. And anyone who's a part of our Patreon, again, linked down below, can have access to that Discord page. And a special thank you to our Grey Council members. Those are the producers listed down below, who provide the largest donation to Patreon every single month, which is so very helpful and helps us grow the show. Along with that, please hit the like, subscribe, notify, whatever button's in front of you, hit that button. And then also, if you can, leave us a review. If you're listening on Spotify, there's a button right down below the play that says leave feedback. You can leave a review there. And if you're listening on anything else, go over to iTunes or Apple and leave a review there. And guys, we actually did get, I think it's the shortest review we've ever gotten, but it is 5-star. And it's from Brazil, which is a first for us. So our review of the week comes from Bus Driver Buddha, and it is great way to follow the show. Love the podcast. Thanks.
Love it.
Short and sweet. We like it.
Yeah, we like
Short,
it.
Sweet, and to the point.
We appreciate you.
Yes, we do. So if you can, please leave us a review. That really does help. And we will go ahead and dive in to The Long Night. And I believe Kevin has a synopsis for us.
As the Army of Light prepares to strike, Londo and Veer continue to plot Cartasia's downfall. Ivanova and Lorianne look for more First Ones. The Shadows unleash a terrible new weapon.
Dun, dun, dun. Insert all your Breaking Bad jokes here for The Long Night. You can just do it now, and then we'll get back to it. Let's go ahead and hear from our newbies on their first impressions, and we'll go to Nicole first. Nicole, first impressions on The Long Night.
You know, this was a pretty good episode. It was a lot of setup, I think, and a lot of plot building. But overall, I thought it was good. Obviously, I'm happy that Cartasia got. That was a really awesome, the way that they did it. I have so much to say about that, but I'll save it. But yeah, I think that it was kind of a heavier episode, a little darker, but I do think that it was kind of necessary to move it along to the next steps and the next phase of what's going to happen and what they're doing and what they're dealing with. There were some things about it that kind of bothered me a little, but I'll go into that later. Otherwise, I thought it was good. There was some good lines with Jakar's speech, which was awesome, and the Tennyson poem at the end. So there was a lot of very meaningful things placed throughout this episode. So it was heavy, a little sad at times, joyful because Cartagia got. There was some good and bad. So it was kind of woven together in a way that like didn't make you feel too depressed afterwards, but it was definitely still a heavier episode.
Emily.
I really liked it. And I'm now getting nervous because this was episode 5, season 4. I haven't disliked an episode yet, so I'm waiting for the bottom to fall out on this. I thought this had one of the best scenes between Veer and Londo that we've had so far. And I feel like this had a lot of important character development for Veer, since we saw the prophecy where he becomes Emperor after Londo, and this sets him up to deal with a really shit situation that he didn't want to be involved in to some degree. So I am interested to see where that goes with his character.
And we're short some newbies, so we'll go over to our first ones. Mike, first impressions.
Really like this episode. This is part of a set of episodes that I find a really hard time kind of separating in my mind. They're almost a continuous series of storylines, and they're all really, really exciting to me. I don't think it's maybe quite as heavy as the last episode felt, even though it centers so much on the regicide. But I do really like that it features a fair amount of setup, and then they really focus in on that story with Londo and Jakar and the Emperor, and it kind of sit on the edge of my seat during that whole thing. So another one of my favorites for sure.
Gavin.
I also like this one. And yes, that scene with Londo and Veer is exceptional. The writing choice of having Veer be the assassin is really awesome, and starting off that scene with some humor, starting it light, and then have it be a roller coaster of emotion for Veer in that episode, and partially for Londo too. This is a great episode. It's got some good stuff with Jakar. Season 3 is definitely my favorite. I wasn't sure how I was going to feel about season 4, but this has been very solid so far. But I haven't seen the rest of the season in a long time, so we'll see how I progress through it. But I do like this episode, and I've liked them all thus far.
Blake.
I also really enjoy this episode. And as much as you all are mentioning the Londo and Veer scenes, I think it's the Jakar scenes at the end for me that make it, especially when, they sit there and say, what have you sacrificed? And he just laughs and walks away like, you people don't have a fucking clue what I've done. And so just that end scene with him makes this episode for me. And also, as Kevin mentioned, just a bit of, we finally find out who actually offs Cartagia, and it's Veer. I don't think any of us would have guessed when we met Veer at the start of this that he's going to be the one that will one day kill the Centauri Emperor. And to see that development in that arc with Veer come to that point. So I think it's interesting to see that character develop and how it plays in overall with where the series is at this point.
Yeah, for me, I'm kind of with Mike on this too. With the serialized nature of season 4, these all kind of just run together in this lead up to what's next. So I really do appreciate this episode for the Cartagia stuff and Veer coming and doing what, if you've watched the show, you know exactly what he's going to do. It's always fun to watch it happen. And we also get, again, as I mentioned, the Breaking Bad jokes. We get a Bryan Cranston sighting, and it's really actually a pretty huge thing. I mean, Sheridan makes a big strategic call, and it's a call that's, he gets people killed. And so we'll see if that works out for him or not. But
Walter White gets a White Star.
Yeah.
For a minute.
Real quick, before we get started, because Blake brought it up, I want to hear from the newbies. How did you feel about the realization that Veer was the one who did it?
I was actually kind of happy it was him. Because one, it was done in a way where it wasn't like he was planning to do it in that manner. It was something he knew that had to be done, and he's coming into a chaotic situation and he acts, and that's the result, and it was the needed result. So I actually liked it. I know it's hard on his character because that's not like him, but maybe I'm just a weirdo.
Yes. Nicole.
Yeah, I gotta say, I wrote down in capital letters and highlighted it said Veer gets his bitch ass. Like, I was very excited that it was Veer, because also I feel like, Cartagia was choking Londo out, and like, Londo was disposed, and Veer knew if he didn't act then it wouldn't get done, and then they'd have to deal with this psycho, you know what I mean? So I think he just acted in a moment of, heat of the moment kind of thing, even though, like Emily said, it's not his character to do something like that. I think he just knew it had to be done. And also it reminded me of the conversation they had beforehand about how he said, well, I could be able to do something dangerous if I needed to or whatever. And Londo was like, take the compliment for what it is. And then he's like, okay, well, I guess it's my time to do that. So he did. And if he didn't do that, Cartagia probably wouldn't have been killed and the plan would have been thwarted. So I think that it was pretty cool to see Veer like just kind of do something outside of his realm of his character and kind of take a stand. And it was pretty badass.
Kevin.
We've talked about before that JMS sometimes has his characters talk to him. And the way that he had planned this, it was going to be Londo all the way through that was going to end up killing Cartagia. And when he sat down to write this episode, he said that Veer started talking to him and saying it would be so much more powerful if I did it. And I'm so glad that this is the choice that JMS made, because that scene between Londo and Veer about his remorse over having done this is such a fantastic scene for both of them, but particularly for Stephen First, who got some good stuff to do thus far, but it's an ensemble cast and he's kind of second tier character, so he doesn't get all the awesome scenes that the first tiers get. And this is an incredible piece of acting by both of them, but for sure for Mr. First, because it's so powerful, and it shows you the really great guy that he is, because as Londo points out, he wouldn't feel like this if he was a dirtbag like Londo is.
How many drinks do I have to have before I don't see myself in the mirror? Mike?
Yeah, that scene and that line is one that really resonates with you after the end. I guess I just wanted to point out, because I feel like I'm sometimes the callback guy. As much as it's not in Veer's nature to be violent, it is very much in his nature to be a hero. We've seen his bravery in the past when he sets up the Narn Underground Railroad at great personal risk to himself, and he is a guy who knows right from wrong and does what it takes. He steps up to the plate to do what he has to do, and that is exactly what he did here, even though we've never seen him quite in this light before, but that is what he does. He steps in to save his friend and to save the Empire. I mean, I think there's probably a dispute whether who do you think he's acting more on behalf of in this scene, the Centauri Empire or Londo? And I would argue that he's probably acting more on Londo's behalf than anything else.
Yeah, Londo's in the headlock, about ready to get killed. What?
Well, and that's two. that's two emperors in a row that Londo's been around for the end of. Not that he had anything directly to do with the first, but I mean, he has been around all of the major power decisions and struggles for the last little bit here in the Empire. You see that he's kind of taking a prime minister type role at the end of this episode. It remains to be seen if that's going to go the way that it's been prophesied, but it's been a very interesting turn, and it's almost everything's had to do with Londo.
We've kind of mentioned this before, how JMS works in his writing. He'll tell you that a lot of times the characters are in his head, and they will tell him what to write and they would say and everything else. So he just kind of lets the characters run wild in his subconscious and doesn't. And he was 1 or 2 pages away in this script from writing the scene where Cartagia, as Nicole said, gets got. And he does point out it may be a little scary that his decisions are made by people in his head. But I love the fact that the character of Veer stepped up, both on the paper but also in the writer's head, saying, this needs to be me. I need to be the one to do this. I really do. I think that's interesting that we got so close to Londo being the one to do it. To Kevin's point, he's been involved in everything, but Veer is the one who steps up and makes the killing blow. Nicole.
So this is something that I've been thinking about since I've watched the episode, and I just wanted to get everyone's takes and thoughts on this too. When Londo went to see Jakar in the cell and basically gave him the directions and stuff like that, when he saw Jakar with his eye and like bent down to talk to him, was it just me or was he like being empathetic and like sympathetic and like, yes, Londo's been a fuckface, but I feel like that moment between them, even though they've been enemies and had their battles and stuff, I feel like even though Jakar told him your heart is empty, I feel like there was still some like compassion there. He felt bad about what Cartagia did to his eye and stuff like that, you know? Maybe this is just me being an optimist or sentimental, but I just thought that was such a moving scene. It just made me want to bring it up because I just felt like it was something that we don't really see very often between them two. Here's these two people that have spent this entire series hating each other and fighting each other. And then there's this kind of like almost tender moment between them. And he's telling him, he's like, you got to do what I say or you're going to die. And basically like, and at the end when he says he's going to keep his word to Jakar, like his honor is all he has left. I feel like maybe Londo's making a turn for the better. I don't know. Anyway, I just thought I'd see what anyone else thought about that.
Every time I hear maybe Londo's turning around, I think of Charlie Brown in that football. This time it's going to be okay. It'll be fine. I promise. Anyone want to chime in on Nicole's question?
Way to date yourself with that reference.
Yeah. The only thing I'll say about that, and I'll be very careful, is that there definitely was a difference in that scene between the two of them. It was palpable. I mean, you cannot deny that Londo was regretful because he'd expressed some regret to Veer in a previous episode. He said, I wish I could do something about the suffering that he's about to go through.
I don't know that I perceived as empathetic, but it made me rethink the prophecy of the eye that cannot see and him needing to save the eye that cannot see, because Jakar said now that his eye is empty, it can see clearly, which to me says if it's in his body, I mean, technically, biologically speaking, it can see, but prophecies tend to use metaphors and other type of stuff in there. So it made me wonder if this was the eye he was supposed to save, because he wasn't listening to Cartagia when Cartagia was subtly threatening that this is what was going to happen to Jakar in the previous episode. So I don't know if I took it as empathetic so much as maybe he realized he missed an opportunity.
I have 2 points in it, Emily.
Tell me I'm wrong.
You're right, and my God, who hurt you? Okay, first off, this is what
Let's not go there.
This is what JMS said when he was asked back in the 90s, was this the eye that could not see? And his response was, yeah, would have been nice if Londo had at least tried to do something about the eye that did not see Cartagia's splendor. So read into that as you will. Second point, my God, can anyone have like an actual emotional response without having some kind of undertone of conspiracy or hate or anything? Who fucking hurt you? Who
absolutely not. It cannot
hurt
happen.
you?
Look, we don't have time for a history lesson, okay?
Show me on the Londo doll where they hurt you. Okay. But yeah, so, I mean, and of course, as we discussed a few episodes ago, JMS is a Rorschach painting, and depending on the day, he may tell you something different. But in that case, he did say that, well, it would have been nice if Londo would have saved that eye.
Now I feel smart.
And still needing some kind of therapy.
Forever and
Who
always.
doesn't need therapy nowadays?
Amen to that.
I mean, we're all here together. I feel like it's just kind of a group issue.
Yeah.
Issue is the emphasis of that one.
I was going to add, I mean, I do think that for as much of a bastard as Londo is fully capable of being, I don't know that we ever really see in the show that he is what I would call a monster, that he is somebody without empathy. Even as he's set up the Shadow War and all that, but even as he's watching the Centauri bomb the Narn homeworld, he's looking out the window. We kind of had a debate about what his emotion was at that moment. And a lot of us, I think, assessed it as regretful or maybe shocked a little bit himself. And just a couple episodes ago, when he goes and he has his first meeting with Jakar in captivity, setting up the conspiracy, there again, he was relaying to Jakar, here are all the things that they're gonna do to you. And you can tell that even if he and Jakar aren't buddies, they're not friends, there's something. And it is just a simple, like, I can't look at somebody else. I can be abjectly distant from you until I know your name. You know what I mean? And he knows Jakar. He knows Jakar. He's talked to Jakar. He's drank with Jakar. And so there's absolutely, just as there was in that scene, some sadness about what he knew was going to happen to him. Here again, I mean, he can't look at the guy and not feel something for him. Even if, again, I'm not coming to Londo's back because he's definitely a bastard, but he's not an unempathetic person. He's not Cartagia.
I can't remember where the line is from. It may very well be from West Wing, but the guy says he can't eat the lobsters at the restaurant because his kids name all of them in the
You quoting West Wing? Get out of here.
Never.
Yeah, I remember that from West Wing.
Yeah. Blake, what do you got?
Well, I agree with Mike there. Londo has not been portrayed as a solid monster through this. And that goes back to the whole thing of the show. No one's as they seem. There are no pure characters. There are no evil characters. Everybody's got kind of these shades of gray involved across the board with the characters. And I think it came up in our discussion even back around that time when Londo was on that ship watching the bombing of Narn with the asteroids, was this is a person who had a goal of he wanted to see his people returned to the glory days of the Centauri Empire. And that was his ultimate goal. And whatever he had to do to get there, but I think he also realized the cost of what it was going to take. He knew that to get what he wanted, it would cost a lot of lives. And he's known that all along, even from the technomage that said, what was it? I see a hand reaching forth and screaming, and Londo says, my followers. And he goes, no, your victims. Londo's known what the price of this would be. He's done it anyway, but he's known the price and the toll it would take. And he's felt, and he has had feeling towards that the entire way along.
Yeah, he's more than willing to be the bad guy. He just isn't the bad guy necessarily.
But he doesn't do it to because he has a goal in mind that isn't just pain of other people. Whether I'm not justifying anything that he's doing whatsoever, but he has reasons for it that isn't just, I feel like being a sadomasochistic jackass.
And I think it was Mike who pointed out this quote or scene, part of the scene too. If not, it was somebody a few minutes ago. But I think it's really heartfelt too, to that point when Jakar says, what have you sacrificed? And Londo just turns around and says, I have. He's given up a lot for this goal that he has of bringing his people back into the light. And he continues to sacrifice for it. And now he's sacrificed fear. Nicole.
Two things I wanted to say. Something that Mike said and Blake too kind of reminded me of, I think it was like the last episode or maybe before when Londo and Veer were talking about Jakar. And Londo even said, I wouldn't wish what they're going to do to him on my enemy, So I do think he definitely feels like, I forgot who said it, but that there's something between them. Maybe not a friendship or a bond, but like there's almost maybe a mutual respect in a way. Like they both have like a, they respect who they are. But another thing too that I thought about was when he was talking to Veer and he said, when I met you and I wasn't kind to you because you had such innocence and a heart, and he said the fact that you feel guilty about what you did means you have a good heart. It kind of made me feel sad for Londo, because even though I think he feels like he doesn't have a good heart or he isn't a good person, but I really think Mike said it. He's not afraid to be the bad guy, but he's not a monster. He's not. And Kevin, like, he's not like Cartagia killed that clown guy just because, you know what I mean? Like, he's not being awful to be awful. He has like goals that are bigger than him. And unfortunately, there's sacrifices and decisions you have to make, which again, not justifying, but like, I kind of see where that comes from. But I do think that deep down, he may not have as big of a heart as Veer, but he's got a shred of one, a little bit, I think.
Yeah, Nicole, to that point, Londo, I think, realizes that he is damned, at least in whatever he believes. I mean, he says in this episode, there's going to be a reckoning, and that reckoning is basically on Londo. But also, I mean, remember what the last Emperor said right before he died in front of Londo? You're damned. And so I think Londo very much thinks that Veer still has that ability to survive this and come out on the other end being somewhat clean. Londo doesn't. Yeah. What else we got on Londo, Veer, and the good dead Emperor? Anything else?
I do have a question, thoughts thing. So when Jakar came out on the thing, you know how Cartasia said he had his chains redone because the other ones looked. Is that true, or did Jakar just have Hulk strength and like break that shit? You know what I mean?
What do you think? I have the answer, but I want Emily and Nicole to answer first. What do you think?
I read it more as like a code of I know what you're planning. Maybe there's something about the way he said it but he also seems to lack awareness. So I don't know.
I think you're giving Cartagia way too much credit.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm not entirely sure he's aware or has a brain or knows anything.
I was meant to be a god, you know? Oh.
Yeah.
I was curious because he's like, you're never going to break those. And I just wonder if he did get them replaced, if Jakar just knew that this was either he had to do this or he would die. And it was like Hulk strength, like a moment of like, you know, that adrenaline kicking in.
Isn't it better if the chains are not weak and Jakar still
I mean, that's what I think happened, but I don't know.
I think the chains were changed either way, whether or not Cartagia was aware of why they were weak.
Well,
and he may not have noticed. Someone might have been like, hey, they don't look right.
A little over 25 years ago, the question was, did Londo's men weaken the chains after all, or was Jakar just really determined? And JMS replied, that was one determined Narn.
Yes. See, I was right. Yay.
This was his last chance. I mean,
and his people's last chance.
Yeah, and I think that
it was kind of hot.
In. Yeah, it was pretty.
He had the chest out. If Jessi was here, we would hear about the chest for sure.
Yeah, that was a really cool moment. I was like, damn, Hulk strength, kick in.
Nicole went full Narn at that point. Blake, what do you got?
Well, I was just going to comment on, too, while we're talking about that scene with Jakar, is, and JMS commented, said it could apply to a lot of belief systems, but a lot of people on the Usenets and in discussions since this episode have really drawn comparisons to Jakar kind of chained up in that beam to Jesus on the cross, and have drawn a lot of iconography to Christian beliefs. And JMS pointed out it's been used across a lot of different belief systems, and really it's open to individual beliefs as to the interpretation of that imagery, but it's definitely there.
Yeah, 100%. That's what I thought. I was like, what is they going to crucify him? Like, that's what I thought when he walked in. I was like,
they were going to eviscerate him.
Yeah.
Nicole, what do you got?
So I think we learned a biological fact about the Centauri. They have 2 hearts. Did I hear that correctly?
Have a lot of multiple organs.
Yeah.
You could go down
Klingon?
You could go down a rabbit hole on this. Remember the Londo during Parliament of Dreams when he was doing his drunken ceremony said that the Centauri had another species on Centauri Prime that were like as peak as they were, and they fought each other, and one species survived. I wonder how many eons those two were going at each other and how evolution was like, we need 6 of these to help breed, and we need 2 of these.
Yeah.
A lot of conflict.
Yeah, he said you have to stab him between the hearts. And I was like, what? And then I heard it again, and I wrote it down. I'm like, 2 hearts, question mark? But yeah.
Well, and that's an important thing, too. None of you guys brought it up, but some people back in the day were like, did Veer actually mean to kill the Emperor, or was it an accident? And JMS flat out said he knew exactly where he had to put the needle. He had to push the button to inject the needle. He had to pull the needle out. He planned it. He knew what he was doing. He had to go pick it up, and he did it. So Veer absolutely had agency when he did that.
And he knows that no one's going to take him seriously or see him as a threat. They see him as kind of a bumbling goof. So if he looks like he's tripping, he can get it done so easily, because Cartagia wasn't going to see it as an attack. He was just going to be like, oh, great, Veer.
I'm glad you said that. Because last week I was talking with you all about this, and I was asking questions knowing obviously what Veer was going to be, because you all were asking, where was Veer last week? And we kind of talked and we all agreed, no one gives a shit about Veer. No one cares. He's just there. So I love that we saw that for a couple episodes, that Cartagia doesn't care about who Veer is, and Veer's the one who finally takes him out. The other thing I really liked about this whole plot line is at the end where G'Kar is on Narn. And by the way, talk about budget cuts and having to work in a hot tub factory where our Emperor's throne room is the same throne room on 2 different planets. I love that G'Kar is now going to have to deal with the same cycle that G'Kar was on when we met him in the Gathering. G'Kar was on a quest for revenge. He wanted to take out the Centauri for what they had done to his people. And now he has his people saying, it's time to push back. It's time to have our revenge again. And he's the one having to say no. The path that G'Kar has been on for these past 4 years is just, it's wonderful to see this growth in this character.
Yeah, I agree with you, Scott, on that, because at the end, he was the voice of reason with them. I think it was you who said it when he was like laughing at the end. What have you endured? And he just laughs and walks away. Like,
yep.
Those people have no idea, what he's gone through.
And it's amazing. And JMS writes about this a lot. He's actually writing about it in his Captain America comic book run right now. It's amazing how easy it is for people to turn from one dictator to another. And the Narn were like, G'Kar, we need you on that throne. He's like, you just got rid of a dictator. You want another one? Yeah. So that's absolutely a theme of JMS's writing, not just in Babylon 5.
I just had one more thing to add. Basically like the torture and the parading G'Kar around and all the stuff they did to him, that just really didn't sit well with me. I did not like that.
Good. If it did sit well with you, you would be sadistic.
Yeah, we'd be having to
and we would be hiring a new newbie.
Not supposed to.
But like it really made me like I almost couldn't watch it. Like it was just almost too much for me, which I don't know. Like I said, I'm sensitive. I'm a lover. I got a big heart, blah, 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 whatever. But there's some things that are a little too much for me. And I just couldn't, it really upset me. Like I didn't like it.
I think it says a lot for the production that even on a 90s primetime television show, they were able to do enough without being able to show much blood, without being able to show much, to make you feel awkward and sick to your stomach. That's a lot to the actors as well, too, that they could pull that off. Emily.
So after G'Kar came in, and I don't know if he intentionally stumbled or what, but like as he was getting back up and he was talking to the other Narn about you need to have strength and like now is the time to have like the most strength you've had. I thought for how brief that was, it was really impactful because it wasn't like a major part of the scene, and it felt like it was a heads up to them too, like some shit's about to go down, so I hope you're ready and you have strength because there's gonna be a brawl in the hall.
Nicole.
It's funny that you brought that up, Emily, because I liked that too, like when he fell and they went to help him and stuff. Again, bringing in the Christianity references and the religion references, it reminded me of the story of the crucifixion a lot, when he's walking, carrying the cross, and he's falling and trembling and people are trying to help him. And the imagery was just like, whoa, you know what I mean? It really made me think of that. This is what Catholic school did to me, guys. But, like, it felt very reminiscent of that, like that feeling, of like knowing what's coming. And like, I don't know, it was kind of cool. And like him just speaking, don't be afraid, and like all that into those people when he knew that he was about to go to the slaughter if he didn't make a move. Like it was really powerful.
I do think there's a little difference since Jesus didn't Hulk out and beat the shit out of people with his cross.
Would have been a lot cooler if he did.
Hell yeah. But no, it just the
image. Bit.
Yeah, the imagery of up to the moment when that happened was very like, whoa. Like,
well, and I love Andreas when you mentioned the piece where he falls down, looks at the kids and says, don't let them see whatever. I forgot the quote now, but it's just like, man, he was such an amazing actor.
What a badass, like straight up.
Okay, let's go ahead and transition now from Veer and Londo killing the Emperor to Sheridan killing a Ranger. And let's talk about that a little bit. Oof.
Yeah, it was rough.
It was. And when that guy realized he was actually being told to do, it was funny because when they first showed him, I'm like, is that Cranston.
Yeah, same.
Who at this point was best known for being a voice actor on Power Rangers. He was several of the monsters on Power Rangers.
I think it was just one, actually, but
he was the bee, wasn't he?
No, I'm gonna look it up now.
Yeah, look it up. He also played Zordon in the really the Power Rangers movie that was better than it should have been.
Just stole my thunder. I was totally
He was
gonna
very
put that
young
too.
and had very dark hair.
R.I.P. Zordon. Yeah. Gosh darn it.
He's looking it up. Well, while he's looking it up, because JMS had no clue who this guy was. It was, the 90s. But he pointed out that one of the reasons why this was so impactful is because the actor they found to do this had a lot of gravitas. I'm like, well, yeah, it was Bryan Cranston. He does have a lot of gravitas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that moment when he realized what he was asking him, and then he asked if he was married, and
yeah, he's like, well, that's one less thing to do.
I was like,
that was the one dickish thing, and I know Sheridan. It was in the moment. He was just like, he was kind of relieved for both not having a family there, and also he doesn't have to make the phone call later to the family.
Yeah,
I'm just like, well, at least there's one thing.
Yeah, it didn't come out well, but I fully understood why, because it's one of those. I think sometimes when you're dealing with just a really shit situation that's really heavy, what comes out of your mouth is highly inappropriate. It's not because you don't care. It's because it's too much to process.
It's a good point.
So, like, whatever bullshit comes out, just that's what happens.
Mike, do you have a Power Rangers answer for us?
I do. You were right. He was two different monsters. I'm unclear still whether he was just the voice or the guy in the rubber suit. I think all of those.
Well, it was most of the
imported from.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So he was Twin Man and Snizzard.
Snizzard. There's a character in like the future seasons of Power Rangers. I know we're just going down a rabbit hole here. That the character's name. No, it was Billy. Billy's last name is Cranston, and that's because of Bryan Cranston.
Wow.
That's what I've seen somewhere or read somewhere. There was like a homage there. Okay, now we've talked about Power Rangers. Nicole, what else you got?
So yeah, the whole plan that they have, that's fucking wild. Like, I can't wait to watch the next episode to see what happens. I thought at the very end when he was doing his captain's log for the final time, I was like, that's very final. I thought that the whole like battle and like the whole plan was insane. I do want to point out too that the conversation he had with Ivanova earlier in his quarters about the war and the battle, man, that was intense. We found out a little bit more about her childhood and that like her mom killed herself, and like what she said to him was like, I can't wait for people, and everyone who's asked me to wait for them never comes. So you have to make me that promise. And that was such a powerful scene between them two, and like so heartfelt, and like that whole scene was just wow, And I know that like she's off help trying to find first ones, but like, yeah, she was like, I don't want you to protect me, and I want to be there. And he promised her that she could be. And I think that they're gonna need everyone that they can in this situation, because it's insane. Like but it was really cool to see that he had the support of so many, and like the fleet has grown so much, so that was pretty neat.
We had a conversation almost a year ago, and I can't remember what the episode was, but we had a conversation because remember there was a scene where Sinclair told Garibaldi, make sure you get Ivanova off the station. A lot of you had issues with that scene, and Ivanova, as we learned in this episode, would have had issues with that too, because she's tired of being left on the sidelines. She's tired of being the one to survive. So I love that comes full circle too. And I forgot what the episode title was, but I know we had a very lengthy conversation about was Sinclair in the right to try to force Ivanova off the station if it ever came to that. What else?
There's really something to all that, because you work with somebody, you care about somebody like that, and you know what their personality is going to be like. You know what? No, I don't want her to die like I'm planning on if things go down. And that's what happens when people work together like that, especially in life or death situations. And Sheridan and her have worked together before, and now they've worked together for a couple years again. Garibaldi and her have worked together for over 4 years. You that's the kind of thing that you do for friends and people that you like.
Yeah, that's not to say that it's a commentary on whether it's ultimately right or wrong. It's just that is the human instinct.
Nicole?
No, I agree with that. And we've talked about this before on previous episodes about how they're like a family. They're all that each other has. I mean, if you think about it, Ivanova's family is dead. She doesn't have anybody else. Garibaldi doesn't have anybody. Franklin, I don't think has anybody. I don't remember his history. But like, yeah, but they're like a family. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, Sheridan's parents are alive and stuff, but like, when's the last time they've all seen them? You know what I mean? So they are like a very tight unit, you know, and I think that there's a lot of respect between them all and a lot of that human intuition to protect the ones that you love, but also you can't hold them back from what they want either. You know what I mean? So it's kind of a line that you got to walk. And I think that as much as Sheridan wants to protect her and doesn't want her to get hurt, he also knows that that's not what she wants. And he respects her enough to give that to her.
We had some conversations about Delenn in the past couple of weeks too. I know she doesn't have too much to do in this episode, but do we see any change with how Delenn's acting? She kind of just stands there next to Sheridan, in my opinion.
Yeah, I was thinking about that.
She didn't really seem to do a whole lot.
Cool. I feel like she's more like she's more like Sheridan's like sidekick? Woman or sidekick. Yeah, like almost like she's taking a step back and letting him take the reins. Well, if you know.
She's still Ranger One. She's the one who sent out that ship to wherever it was going, but she didn't send it to die.
Yeah.
And she was the one when the captain signs off. He addresses her when he says intel, whatever he says, the line. He's talking to Ranger One.
Yeah.
Which is her. But she's not making the calls.
What does that mean? That phrase that they say to each other?
I think it's essentially a Valen reference.
Yeah, because they say in Valen's name and they say something in Minbari.
I think it's in Valen's name in Minbari, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it's
Valen's name, eat shit and die.
Yeah. I had to ask the hard question. Sorry.
Thanks for killing me. Appreciate it.
So real talk real quick about the Cranston thing, just because we kind of discussed it, but I would point out that the fact that they show that Sheridan his plan fully knowingly steps up and orders this guy to his death to go commit not a pointless action, but an action that he knows is going to fail to set up a bigger plan, is something that I feel you didn't probably ever see and don't often see on TV. That level of seriousness and realism at that point. I watched that scene and I was like, man, this is the kind of thing you see in like a Band of Brothers movie, not in like a cheesy 30-year-old sci-fi movie or TV series.
He is not for the warm and fuzzy. He's for showing the awfulness of war and the horrible decisions that have to be made, and he's not going to sugarcoat a war. And I like that about his writing, because as much as I'm a Star Trek fan, especially, at this point in the Star Trek universe, the warm and fuzzy was what they were all about most of the time.
Yeah, it didn't really start to get darker and more serious until DS9, which,
and it was later in DS9 too. He pioneered.
It's all Garrick's fault.
But yeah, just when you think of it, it's one of those things, like, and we've talked about other items in this show where it's like, B5 went there with their story. They went there and they ran that story about choosing whether to let the doctor operate on the kid or let him die. That was the big one we discussed before, and no one had ever done that kind of a story on TV before. And so I really feel like, it's probably not the first time, because there were shows like MASH who pioneered a lot of that kind of deeper war is pointless thought, but it was just kind of almost jarring in this when it pops up and he's like, what's up, Erickson? This is what you're gonna go do. And Erickson's like, oh.
MASH is
oh no.
MASH is a great reference, especially later in the series. Not that they didn't touch on it earlier in the series, but later it really got heavier. And that's a great reference, because that type of writing is rare in this time frame.
Going back to Cranston having gravitas that most, one and done actors don't have, which is why he's ran his own show after this. But I love the acting there when he realizes, Mike, to your point, because Sheridan's like, they cannot get a hold of this. information. And he's like, they won't get a hold of it, sir. It's like, no, you don't understand me. I want them to, but they have to think they weren't supposed to. Mm-hmm. And his change there, he's like, oh, I got it. Ouch.
Yeah, it's like, you got to make it look good, and you're going to cover the escape of the other ships.
And then how much time do we have, sir? About 10 to 12 hours. Well, we better get ready. And to your point, too, about Band of Brothers, JMS did reference the D-Day invasion when talking about this, and how there were several groups of military groups from Britain, the United States, and everywhere else who were told the wrong information in hopes that information would get to the Germans. So the Germans weren't aware that we were going to hit Normandy. So same kind of idea. Nicole.
And I think another thing that was kind of powerful too, when I think he made that transition and realized it, when he said that the Minbari all knew what they were signing up for, and so did he, kind of thing. I think the gravity of the situation hit him, and then he said, well, this is what we signed up for. Let's get shit done. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It took a sec, like that. There was like a moment of like, oh, and then he's like, all right, he went into like slay mode. Yeah, it was a really powerful moment.
We'll give him a fight. I had enough time as we were having this conversation to do some wikiing, and so I do have an answer on the Intel Za. Kevin, you're basically right. It's an honorific originally given to Valen and then given to every Ranger 1 after that. And it is the wiki says the true meaning is unknown, but it roughly translates into one who creates or one who protects the future.
Pretty cool.
Anything else we want to talk about with the B5 side of things? We've got Ivanova going off to find some first ones again. And we've got a build-up. And I know, Nicole, I think it was you who mentioned that this is pretty damn big fleet. So it's the former League is stepping up again. And I think that's also an important part of sending Erickson to his death, is it shows the League that we're going to sacrifice humans too. This isn't just about putting all you aliens out there. Well, I just killed a human to get this done. I killed several.
I guess the only other thing we really haven't touched on yet is there was the big reveal that, we already knew that the Vorlons were using planet-killing weaponry. Now we know that the Shadows are also using, I think, a giant horde of termites, maybe? I'm not sure.
Yeah.
With lots of nuclear explosions.
That's right, yes.
They walked through how many nukes went down that into the core. Oh my God.
I actually forgot about that part.
That was
yes,
insane.
You're right. They're doing the same thing in a far less efficient method.
So, Emily, you talked about the Enterprise having tentacle porn. How do you feel about the Shadow death weapon?
I don't know.
And by the way, Emily didn't say tentacle porn. I added that part. She just said it had tentacles.
I wasn't going to correct you because I really don't care.
She was thinking it.
It looked too familiar. Something about the way the clouds.
How many times have you seen a planet eaten to death by termites?
Common occurrence. Happens in her dreams all the time.
Well, we all know her dreams are dark. We know that.
To be fair,
they're not.
To be fair, it reminded me ever so slightly of is it the Chronicles of Riddick?
Oh.
The absolute sci-fi masterpiece that is the second movie in that series.
Isn't that one just called? What's that one called?
Is that the right one? I think that's the right name.
I think the Chronicles is number 2, right?
The first one is Pitch Black in this.
Yes.
Oh no, that's a different. I'm
Pitch
sorry.
Black
Pitch
was
Black.
Pitch Black.
It's not Triple X.
I'm
sorry.
Same guy.
I was thinking of Pitch Black, but I said Triple X.
Pitch Black is a great movie, and I will go out on a limb and say that Chronicles of Riddick is also a great movie. But anyway, did kind of remind me of that.
One thing for all the big sci-fi nerds. So Nicole, you can probably sit this one out for just a second. But we've been told throughout the entire series that Harlan Ellison is a consultant on this show because JMS and Harlan Ellison were very good friends, and to this day JMS runs his estate. But Harlan Ellison's the guy who came up with the Shadow Death machine. It was his idea, and he's the one who mapped out the way it looked, and then also let's just shove a whole bunch of nukes into a planet's core and see what happens. So that's Harlan's addition to this.
I think it was the graphics of it that look familiar.
Like
we've seen similar in Star Trek.
Well, I bet you Star Trek, if anything, took it from them, because I think what you're referring to is probably when Vulcan blew up in 2009.
No, I was
maybe
thinking, I thought there was it a TNG episode? Yeah, my brain's not quite registering which episode it was, but something about looked and felt familiar.
Nicole's like, sure. Nicole, what do you have?
Well, I was going to say, like, I mean, I don't know shit about sci-fi, so if I'm wrong, please don't come for me, people. But it reminded me of several other movies where aliens come to Earth and basically take all the resources and go into the core and then like destroy it and move on to the next planet. Like that's kind of, in my mind, the missile things were like the locusts that were coming to take I mean, they were just destroying it in this case, not taking the resources, but like that's kind of what I thought of. And I wondered if maybe that influenced that in other sci-fi movies out there.
I'm trying to think where, to that point, to that influence, I'm trying to think, because we've seen a lot of planets explode over the years and many different things. I'm trying to think, Emily, what looked like that. I'm sure there's something. I just can't think of the reference.
Well, might have been Independence Day before, Will Smith and Jeff Goldblum gave him a virus.
Welcome to Earth. Okay.
Are you mocking Independence Day right now?
Yeah, it's a good movie.
No, man, I love Independence Day.
Okay,
now,
all right.
The first one, no. The second one, absolutely.
The second one can be mocked.
The second
Never
one,
actually seen it, so
you're not missing much.
Don't.
Someone asks Brent Spiner's character, weren't you dead in the first one? Yeah, but I got better. That's really what it was. Like, we wanted Brent Spiner back.
I actually have respect for them on that. I mean, that's like the tagline for Crank 2, wasn't it? He died, but then he got better.
Well, that's what Sheridan said 2 episodes ago. Weren't you dead? I got better.
Yep.
This episode was done by a first-time director. I thought it was pretty good.
Well, it's a good one for a new director to kind of, sink their teeth into, because really, there's like, 4 sets in the entire episode? So you can do a lot with staging because you don't have to worry about bouncing back and forth.
I don't know if you guys noticed, but he decided to do that first scene where Londo is conspiring in like a basement or whatever. And he did that with one camera.
Oh, yeah.
Circular shot. And it looked kind of cool. It looked very conspiratorial, which is the way it was supposed to. My
one complaint about this episode, and I made it already, is I really, really wish they would have taken a little bit extra time to do another set other than the exact same damn throne room with red lighting as opposed to white lighting.
There have been other scenes and other episodes where I've actually been confused whether they were on Narn or Centauri for that exact reason.
Yep. And again, they filmed this sucker in a hot tub factory, so I give them a lot of credit. But you could have done something. I mean, there was a Narn set because we had Narns like huddled in that basement set or whatever it was. So, oh well. Okay, let's go ahead and end our conversation there about this episode, and we'll move into questions and predictions. For those who are just joining us, our newbies have not watched past The Long Night, and so we'll ask any lingering questions that they may have, and then ask for any predictions that they have, and then we're going to kick them off the show and talk about their questions, predictions in our spoiler section after the credits. So, Nicole, questions, predictions.
Well, like an a-hole, I asked a lot of my questions throughout the discussion, but the obvious question is anyone going to live? Are they going to survive? What's going to happen with this battle that they're about to go into, which I know I'll never know the answer to unless they show me in the next couple episodes.
Well, we are going to be here recording episodes over the next year.
I know.
So
it just take forever. I want to know right now. I don't want to wait.
It's turned into a zombie show is what's going to happen.
Yeah. Babylon 5
deceased. It's a whole new cast next season.
Yeah. But no, I just want to know what's going to happen. Like, I'm dying to know what the result of this fight is going to be. And then I also wonder if I felt like some of the tension with Garibaldi was a little less this episode, but it was still kind of there. Like, he's just very blasé about things. So I'm just wondering what's going on with him and what's going to happen in the future with him. Because I noticed, well, Sheridan's not here, and also, I know we've already ended our discussion, but shout out to Lanier, who had all the answers and no one would let him speak. Okay.
Seriously.
I was like, come on, man, poor Lanier. But to that note, I thought it was really cool that they were able to kind of pinpoint where the next attack was going to be. But that being said, are they going to be able to do that for every attack or battle going forward if this, doesn't end everything and they have to continue? So, and I guess prediction wise, I don't really have any except for shit's about to go down and I can't wait to see what happens.
Emily, questions, predictions.
My first question is, what the fuck, Sheridan? That's a really ballsy plan. To be like, we're tired of proxy wars, so we're just gonna have them come face to face. because that was his goal in the plan.
I love how you make an opinion into a question. That's cool. Because there's no way. How do we answer that in Beyond the Rim? Emily thinks he has balls. Does Sheridan have balls? Yes or no?
Has he lost his ever-loving fucking mind?
Okay, that's better. I can go with that one.
Has he reached that level of desperation where he's like, yep, we're just gonna start an all-out war because this proxy stuff is old, and we'll see what happens, because good times.
Well, you come back from the dead, and, well...
Your perspective
changes.
His last plan was pretty bold, too, I would...
And he's remember, he's been told, too, you've got 20 years, and then you're just going to, as Lorian said, just stop.
Yeah, I still don't like Lorian, but I never will, so... And then my other question,
hurt you?
Yeah, my other question that I don't think you'll be able to answer is: did Jakar laugh all the way home? Because that scene where the guy's like, "What have you sacrificed?" I was like, "Is he gonna beat his ass or just laugh and walk away?" And he just starts laughing, and I'm like, "Dude, are you looking at Jakar? Are you looking at his physical form right now? He's missing an eye. Do you think he plucked it out for fun?"
Emily, the first thing that popped in my head when you asked if Jakar laughed all the way home is I thought immediately, and this little piggy went wee all the way home.
Exactly.
Oh, God.
Like Maxwell the pig in this pinwheel. So I don't really have any predictions other than the dude who questioned Jakar might be regretting that life choice.
Okay, we'll go ahead and end it there for our newbies. A couple real quick things before we move on. This is actually an important day. As we are recording this, we're recording this close to midnight on November 24th. November 25th is the original release of the Babylon 5 series finale. So 25 years ago, this week, Babylon 5 ended. And so it's interesting to show that we're still talking about it over 25 years later. Of course, other stuff has come out since then, and we'll talk about that stuff down the road. But for the better part of the show, it ended 25 years ago this week. And so I think it's kind of cool that we and other people are still chatting about this thing long after that. Along with that, we'll be back here next week to talk Into the Fire, which is the highest rated season 4 episode on Lurker's Guide. So I'm looking forward to hearing about all your guys' thoughts on Into the Fire when we meet again. So a reminder to check out all our social media pages. We also, I didn't mention it at the front of the show, we do have our Extra Life campaign still going. We're still raising money for Children's Miracle Network, so if you can donate, that link is there as well. And be sure to like, subscribe, follow, do all that. And please, please, please leave us a review if you can on either Spotify or Apple or Audible. We can do a review there as well, too. Those really, really do help us. So until next week, when we talk about Into the Fire, I've been Scott, and with me has been
Blake,
Emily,
Kevin,
Mike,
and Nicole.
And for those of you who don't care about spoilers, see you after the credits. Bye.
All right.
Go watch the episode.
All right, later.
Bye.
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 Thank you for listening to Grey 17, a Babylon 5 podcast. You can find all the places to listen to and watch this podcast at anchor.fm/Grey17podcast or youtube.com at Grey17podcast. We want to hear from you, so join the conversation at Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, or Patreon. Be sure to subscribe and leave a review where you are listening to or watching this podcast. Grey 17 is not affiliated with, and the podcast has not been prepared, approved, or licensed by Warner Brothers or any other owners of the Babylon 5 copyright. All clips included in this podcast are the intellectual property of the respective copyright holders. They are included here for purpose of review, and no infringement is intended. The opening and closing themes are available from Falling Matter on YouTube.
And what's out there?
The rim,
And beyond that?
the truth.
Welcome back to Beyond the Rim. Again, spoiler warnings. If you do not want to be spoiled about what happens next in Season 4 and beyond, please leave now. And if not, we'll dive into the questions and, I guess, one prediction that our newbies gave us this week. So, guys, the first piece we have from Nicole is, and this is a hard one, is anyone going to live? Question mark. Nope.
Nobody.
Nope. Recasting the whole show.
That's, well, you know, I mean,
There will be some recasting doing between season 4 and season 5, but we got a lot of season 4 to go first before we get there. Poor Marcus. Your time is almost up, my friend. Next off, what is going to happen to Garibaldi? We didn't get much Garibaldi in this episode, but Nicole is concerned.
Yeah, I actually forgot he was in this episode.
He's going to get crankier.
He was kind of mellow in this episode. He was just kind of hanging out in the war council, not bitching as much.
That's why I think the actor's choice to play it this way so that it wasn't, on a giant billboard, I've been brainwashed is a very good choice.
I think it's helpful too, since this is going to take most of season 4 to wrap up. If it was like that, which a lot of shows have done that, it would get so tiring so quickly.
Yes.
Next up, are they going to be one step ahead in every battle or just this one?
Well, funny thing about that, there aren't going to be that many battles.
No, there's not going to be that many battles left. Like I've said this a couple times now, and I'm looking forward to hearing from all of our newbies about how they feel about the Shadow War wrapping up in what episode are we on for season 4? Episode 5? Episode 6? I'd be really interested to see how they feel about that, because the Shadow War has been wrapping up since literally season 1. We started hearing about the Shadows, and it's over next week.
Yeah.
There's a whole lot of season 4 left to go.
I can see Emily immediately saying, I don't believe they're gone.
Oh yeah, we're going to hear a lot of that.
I hope that I enjoy the Earth stuff as much as I remember liking the Earth stuff, and I hope Mike enjoys it too, because I realize that Mike prefers the Shadow stuff over the Earth stuff, and I
do.
I'm
get tired of our planet. Like, you have no idea.
I'm tired of our planet. I agree, sir. I hope that I enjoy it as much as I remember.
Next up, guys, has Sheridan lost his ever-loving fucking mind?
No,
I think Sheridan actually has come back more centered and more strategic than what he was.
I was going to say, Sheridan, I don't know why they're surprised, because Sheridan always makes big plays.
Yep.
That's true.
Like, he's not a subtle dude.
He's known as Star Killer for a reason.
Right.
Yeah.
It'll come into focus, I think, next week.
True. And then I think it would really, when they finally see in the beginning, which they'll see here a couple months from now, when they actually see that scene that actually started it all with the Minbari War, I think that's important too.
I can't wait to talk about in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's going to blow the newbies' mind.
It will be right after season 4. We will watch it between season 4 and season 5. And the reason why we decided that, because I know we've gone back and forth, there's some hints at what happens at the end of season 4 in that episode. So we want to make sure we stick it after that. But yeah, no, I think I was the one kind of dogging on Sheridan in season 3. I think he is more resolute now. I think he understands what's going on. And I think, again, the fact that he has seen the end in terms of his own life and now has been told he's on a clock, he has nothing to lose. And he wants to end this shit now. I don't know how to even preface this one, folks. So did G'Kar laugh all the way home?
I'm sure he did. I mean, it was just such a patently ridiculous statement. Just absolutely asinine comment that it didn't warrant any response other than, yeah, okay, sure, whatever, bye.
And Kevin, I 100% agree with you. It was asinine and it didn't warrant any response, but we get yelled at when we get political, but I'm going to get political for a minute. 40 to 45% of this country right now would say the exact same damn thing. And both we need somebody to run the show, and also, what have you sacrificed? You haven't done anything.
Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah, no, I'm agreeing with you, but
definitely thinking about that in context of, we just got rid of one dictator, let's install another one.
Oh, that was exactly the thought that came to my mind too, Mike, but I didn't want to go down the political rabbit hole. But as we have already gone down there, yeah, definitely.
Mm-hmm. Well, like I said, JMS, if you haven't started reading his run on Captain America, I really recommend it. He's 2 comics in. Third one is, I think, dropping next week. And he is dealing with the American Nazis in the 1930s. And again, JMS is the guy to talk about it. And it's something that
It's in our history that we don't talk about much, and most people don't even realize it happened. But those motherfuckers filled up Madison Square Gardens for a rally once. So there was a few of them.
Well, and Rachel Maddow's new book is right on point with that. And I haven't read it yet, but I intend on it, and I've heard really good things about it.
You can send your hate mail to Rachel Maddow at MSNBC, and us too.
I was going to say, that's a big...
To our special listener in Argentina,
hi. The ladies are still not in the kitchen. I apologize.
And if they are, it is their choice.
Yes, they may have been in the kitchen last week, but so was I. And so was Blake for sure, and probably everyone else. And we had one prediction, and I think we just kind of hit on it. The dude who questioned Jakar will regret life choices. Well, he's going to be every alien in the galaxy before it's all said and done. So I don't know about that.
How did that episode go? It should have had something to do with they're making a pleasant thump when they...
they made a pleasant thump when they hit the floor.
Yeah, it was Jakar talking to King Arthur. Yeah, yes. They did make a pleasant thump. Okay, guys, I think that will end it for this conversation. I know this was a short Beyond the Rim, but I have a feeling next week's episode will be a little longer in the Beyond the Rim section. Not to mention, probably in our main general section too, as we discuss Into the Fire, and we end the Shadow Vorlon War. Until then, I'm Scott, and with me has been
Blake,
Kevin,
and Mike.
Click all the buttons. See you next week.
Erickson, a little while ago, I said that I might be asking a great deal of you and your crew. I've just sent 4 more ships to rendezvous with your position. Once they arrive, you will proceed to enter Shadow space. Your target is a small base on Dorax 7.
I know the one, sir. But, Captain, it's only 10 light minutes from one of their main staging areas. They'd be able to counterattack almost instantly.
We're aware of that. We're transmitting a file to you on a sub-channel. That file contains information about a secret base we've established near Coriana 6. Most of the fleet will be there when it goes online in 3 days. But Erickson, if this information falls into the hands of the Shadows, they will launch an attack against that base just before it becomes operational.
Who are you talking to right now? Who is it you think you see?
You misunderstand me. We want it to fall into their hands. We want them in the Coriana system in 3 days. We're planning a little party for them. But Erickson, if this information comes too easily, they won't believe it. We need them to believe it's real. Real enough to fight for, real enough to...
You clearly don't know who you're talking to, so let me clue you in. I am not in danger. I am the danger.
You're not a married man, are you, Erickson?
A guy opens his door and gets shot, and you think that of me? No. I am the one who knocks